Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week, our guest is Jessica Morris. She's an author, spiritual director, and recovering addict. In addition, she's an adult child of an alcoholic minister, a father-daughter relationship that deeply affected her own ideas of God, religion, death, and the end times. In her most recent book, Higher Powered, One Woman's Journey of Personal Eschatology, she takes a look at eschatology, which is also known as the study of the end of times, and how recovery from her addictions to food and alcohol, as well as the family disease of alcoholism, has been a catalyst to a personal eschatology. And in dying to herself every day, her view of the end times has lightened significantly to a point where forgiveness, acceptance, and faith are not only possible, but the transformative forces to living peacefully while here on Earth. All right, awesome. Jessica, how's it going?
It's great. That sounded awesome.
Yeah, well, I can tell you're a writer because it's a good one. Sometimes I edit someone's bios and sometimes I don't. You are not at all.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
a writer, and my mom was an English teacher,
oh wow,
so
yeah.
it's been drilled into me, since birth.
That's awesome. And I want to hear all about your family and your personal eschatology. Before we do that, three quick questions. How old are you? Where were you born? And what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
I'm 55. Big year this year for me. I was born in Summit, New Jersey, which is like North Jersey-ish, but I didn't live there. I lived in Bloomsbury, tiny, teeny little town in New Jersey, and live in Pennsylvania now. And what was the third one? Oh, my generation. I believe I'm X. I think I'm X. Um, but I don't really go by that so much, if that
Yeah,
makes sense, simply because, I have always felt really comfortable with people who are like 20 years older than I am.
wow, that's cool. I actually can
So
identify strongly with that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, but I also, when Generation X stuff comes through, like videos from the 80s or whatever, I'm all in,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it was just such a, I don't know, I think it was a great time to grow up. I mean, it
yeah,
just was so much fun. I mean, people, there wasn't as much of this chaos that I see today.
yeah. It
And it was
definitely.
before videos were everything,
Yeah, yeah,
Like nothing I did that was bad was on video.
yeah.
So,
It's funny
yeah.
because I don't even like filming these, and I didn't want to do video, but it's like an essential part of podcasting now. But with that
Yeah.
said, I do find that I interview better and that I get a better feel of a guest with the video interface. So I'm like happy to have the video option for a conversation, but as far as like seeing me on like any form, I'm
Yeah.
not into
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because lived experience, like when you grew up is not really your generation, even though we try to combine the two. And so I can definitely understand because I always hung out with people 10, 15, 20 years older than me, and they extremely influenced me. But ironically, that would be Gen X. So it's like, so you can see but I think
Yeah.
that's a safe to say for everyone. And I always laugh now because I'm from like whatever generation where Kurt Cobain and Nirvana were like the biggest deal ever to me. And now I see tons of kids wearing Nirvana shirts. And I just want to stop and be that old man asking all of them, like, do you even know who they are? Do you know any of their songs? And please tell
No.
me yes to both, and then let's just like talk about them for an hour. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I get it. I get it. It's a completely different world now, and I often think, well, I'm really grateful that social media was not a thing when I
mhm.
was growing up because I believe it may have taken me out.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean it's scary. I
Yeah.
have two young daughters. They're way too young for a phone, let alone social media, but I'm hoping it crests and becomes like pathetic in their eyes and they don't even want to have anything. That's like I'm actually just rooting for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. And last like catch up kind of question, just because I went to Pitt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Which part of Pennsylvania are you in?
I'm on the other side of
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'm about an hour north of Philadelphia.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm familiar with all these areas, but
It's
that's
we're well, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania.
oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
the Reading Railroad
Yeah,
on
totally.
the
Yeah.
Monopoly board. Yep. That's
Yeah, I've driven many times on the 76 and seen where you live. I've not
oh
spent a
yeah.
lot of time there. But it's good area. So wow, I a lot of questions to ask. I think just because I blew through it, let's get into the word eschatology, and I'll let you define it and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. It is actually all it really means is the study of the end of times. So ology is the study of, and yeah. And honestly, I didn't even really know what the word was until I went to seminary.
Okay.
So what I knew was apocalypse.
Hmm.
That's the word that I knew. And that's the word that people often know when you talk about it. That's what they know. And there are in the theological circles, there are different kinds of eschatology that are recognized. The two biggies are apocalyptic eschatology, which would be like the book of Revelation in the Bible, which talks about like a prophecy of a future end to the way things are at
Okay.
this time. And then realized eschatology is the time is now. It's happening now. And that would be an example of that would be the Gospel of John, where Jesus says often when he's talking, the time is now. Kind of wake up and recognize I'm standing right here, and so everything is changing right now. And what happened for me, I mean, I grew up thinking I was pretty much going to be thrown into the fiery pit with all the other sinners. I mean, because I was not. I mean, I was a good girl until I wasn't. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah.
As a preacher's kid, so I kind of tried for a long time to be good, but yeah, it wasn't happening. And so I really thought I saw movies like The Omen and The Exorcist and those really scary movies of my childhood that just made me think, evil's in control here and for me anyway,
Hmm.
and and in addition to that, when I was a child, that one of the first things I remember my father telling me is that I was a mistake. And so, in that, I thought my dad was a minister. So I assumed that God told him that. I was like, and so I was just kind of a mess after he said that. And then I just really, you know, let's be easy on my dad right here. He was also an alcoholic. And
Yeah. No.
so I think he was probably pretty drunk when he said it. I don't think he was trying to hurt me. I think it just came
Well,
out.
do you have siblings, or are you an only child?
Yes, I have three older siblings.
So was he just in your recollection of the event, was he trying to say that like you were the mistake, but the other kids were, yeah, okay. Just
What I remember him saying was, me and your mom only wanted three kids.
hmm.
So you were a mistake.
Wow.
And when I went to her and to ask if that were true, because I didn't want it to be true, of course,
Yeah.
she didn't say no. She just said he shouldn't have told you that.
Oh God.
And so, yeah, I know. It's like, oh,
I'm
I,
cringing
I
on
mean, I
behalf of
look at it
parents everywhere.
now and I'm okay.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work on it. But it's just like, okay, what not to say to children?
Yeah.
I should write a book about that. Um, so anyway, so I was just pretty sure that I was going to be in the fiery depths. And when I was in seminary, I was learning a lot about because I went to learn. I didn't
Hmm.
go to become a minister, or I didn't even know what spiritual direction was when I went to seminary. I just went to learn it for myself, kind of in sort of a cocky way.
Hmm.
I'm recovering now, and I have a clear mind now, and I'm going to go learn all the lies my dad told me. I mean, I was just really very sort of cocky, and at the same time really seeking too, because I had always had a very strong relationship with Jesus, even though God scared the crap out of me. And so while I was learning, I learned about how metaphorical Jesus was and everything that he said. And part of the reason for that is because I'm pretty sure he knew that 2,000 years later people would be reading it, and it had to be metaphor because they needed to be able to understand it as well and apply it to their lives. But one of the things that my Intro to New Testament professor shared with us was when we did the book of Revelation, that there are a lot of theologians or scholars that believe that the book of Revelation actually is a metaphor for the Romans
Mm.
oppressing the Jewish people. And that it was going to be when that was over.
Oh,
That's how
wow.
it happened, right?
Yeah.
And so, I remember sitting in that class as he was saying this. This was a brand new idea to me. Other people have heard this. And I thought to myself, well, because I was thinking about my life in recovery, which is completely different.
Mhm.
My days prior to getting into recovery from my addictions were a train wreck.
Well, hold
I
on. I
don't.
just, for the sake of the interview, because we're jumping around a lot,
Okay, sorry,
I want to
sorry,
stay
sorry.
focused. So the question was, what is eschatology? And we're way
Oh,
off.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
that's okay. I just want to make sure that because it's gonna get confusing for our audience. We don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
know what addictions you had and what happened in there. So for now, we got
Okay,
eschatology, but I do have a
pause.
quick follow up on that. When does anyone, when they talk about eschatology, do they consider, like, is it just the end of the human race? Would other animals survive? Would Earth survive? Would planetary existence survive? Is that ever covered in any of it? I'm just curious.
It
I'm not.
honestly, in all of my research, that's a very interesting question. I never thought about animals or the planet or because it's not, as far as I know, it's not discussed. It's pretty
Yeah.
much the human race,
Interesting.
you
Yeah, I
know.
just it's not even I'm not trying to sound like better or it's just more that
No,
I've
no, no.
as I go on and on in life, I'm always laughing when people are like Mother Nature, Mother Earth, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's gonna kick us off and mom's gonna have a clean kitchen and she's gonna be just fine. So I do wonder, like in a biblical sense, I have no grounding in Christianity or I was technically a little bit Jewish as a kid, but I wouldn't say I understand it. So actually, back to you and your life story. Before I ask you about the addictions and all the things that, in my opinion, went right so they could go wrong, and then you could be who
Yeah,
you are.
exactly.
But are you still Christian? Like, what? How would you answer that question today in the year 2025?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I never walked away from Jesus. I walked away from organized religion.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
yeah.
when I went to college, I just said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here.
So is your belief in what happens when you die? Does it match Jesus? Like, what's your actual belief?
Well, my hope and my dream is that he'll be the first one I hug. And then, when it comes down to what happens when you die, I think it's almost presumptuous to say that I know,
Mhm.
because even though people have said many different things to me, and I've read different things in the Bible that could mean something or they could mean something else, it's really your interpretation of it. And I don't, did you ever see the movie After Death? It's, oh, you would like it. It's Angel Studios did it, and I want to say it's 4 or 5 accounts of people who had near-death experiences.
Oh wow.
It's really
I
cool.
definitely want
And
to see
it
that
and
after. Yeah.
it and the thing I liked about it is that there were certain things that each of them had in common, and then there were things that were specific to their own personality.
That's cool.
And that's my understanding of my relationship with God, with Jesus, with Holy Spirit is it's personal. This is not like one size fits all. I mean, and when we talk more about my story, you'll see why probably I think
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm
Yeah.
totally fascinated. I'm glad I asked that question now because I think with the order we were talking, it just makes sense to wrap up the organized religion portion, and then when you
Yeah.
get back into your childhood and your dad, of course, that's going to explode, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
so let's see. I just want to make sure I covered all the little nitty questions to get us on the path, because I love your story and I love the way you talk about it. So I want to give you full reign. Yeah. So I guess let's just go with. We knew a little bit about your childhood. How old were you the first time you? You can answer either. How old were you the first time you went astray and got into drugs or alcohol, or how old were you the first time you realized your dad was an alcoholic?
Ooh. Oh, I just got like a chill through my arms when you asked that second question. So I think that's the first one. And I had the actual moment in my head. I didn't know what the word was,
Wow.
but I knew that if my dad drank that beer, the rest of the night would be bad.
Mm. Yeah.
And we were at a picnic. We were at someone else's house. And I remember him picking up a beer off the picnic table and saying to him, could you not do that today?
Ooh, yeah. Wow,
And
that's
he just kind of looked at me and I was like, I just don't like you when you do that. And that was probably one of the worst driving drunk experiences I've ever had in my life was driving home from that party. I was a little kid, so much so that four of us were in the back seat. Like that's how little we were.
yeah.
Um, and my mom was very codependent and she let him drive,
Yeah.
and off we went. He like ran it. I remember as we were leaving, he ran into a fence and the people, at the window waving as he's running into a fence. And I mean, it was a different time, the 70s,
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't make it okay, just a completely different time.
No, but I remember similar
Yeah,
enough things that yeah, no, it's
yeah. And so yeah, so that's the first time I knew that there was something not right about the drinking and how my dad behaved.
Mhm.
I just didn't know it was alcoholism yet. For me, my first memories of my addiction come very early, and food is actually the
Mhm.
bigger one for me, if you can believe that.
No, no, yeah, yeah.
I actually have a friend who's in both recoveries with me for food and alcohol, and when she tells her story for her alcohol, she says candy was dandy, but liquor was quicker. And so that's why I got here first, and I actually went into recovery for food first because I mean, I was almost 300 pounds. I couldn't diet anymore. Like I spent my whole life dieting,
Mhm.
and over exercising, all that, taking laxatives, everything, the whole 9 yards. And I got to a point where I could not even diet for an hour. I mean, like it was gone, just gone. The disease took over completely, and it didn't matter. Like there was nothing about me that wanted to be 300 pounds. Nothing.
Yeah.
I was a weight loss lecturer for a while. I mean, for crying out loud, I knew exactly what I needed to do in order to be in a healthy body. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It was gone. And so I was 29 when I got in recovery. I would say that I have been sneaking and hiding food since the time I could climb up on a counter. I remember climbing up on a counter to get to the sugar
Yeah,
in
yeah,
our house, so I mean, from a very early age. And I
yeah.
remember also at a very early age, my mom made a cough syrup that had whiskey in it. And she used to keep it in the fridge because it had honey and lemon juice, and it would separate, in the fridge.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can remember going in and stirring it with my finger and then drinking it because I liked the feeling of the warm. So, I mean,
Wow.
I was little. I was
Yeah.
very little. Yeah.
Just to connect with you, I weighed like 275 pounds when I graduated high school, and I definitely can relate. And
Yeah.
I've had an easier time not showing the symptoms like throughout my life. Like I have a good sense of self-shaming mechanism that like kind of makes me pull the brakes when I have to. There was like one
Yeah.
period when had my first marriage and I put on some weight because she kept being like, "I like when you eat," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is," but which is like every food addict's like dream come true and nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so my question to you is kind of pointed. I remember a lot of moments before I ever learned how to lose weight where I would just cry and pray for like death or help or something like that. I'm curious when you're as far into it as you got where you actually do know how to lose weight, you've given lectures and you have like because I didn't have that at the time. What do you cry for when you like break down? Like what do you want, like more willpower? Do you want less willpower? Like what is it that you're looking to
Well, when I
seeking?
got to that point, that was probably about, I want to say, if I had to guess, about 4 years before I found recovery. So
Okay.
those last,
Yeah.
like, let's say 4 to 8 years, 4 to 6 years, I couldn't diet anymore, and the weight just kept coming on and on and on. And then I was just sort of isolating, suicidal. I didn't care about a lot. Like I knew I had to go to work. I knew I needed to have a job so that I could buy my food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was on my own. I lived by myself, and so I knew there was nobody who was going to do it for me. And thankfully, my older sister, who's 6 years older than I am, she pretty much parented me my whole life. And she came to me at one point because of my alcohol. And she did sort of a mini intervention with that. And that was about a year before I found recovery. And what happened was I was going to show her that I wasn't an alcoholic like our dad.
Oh, okay.
And so
Yeah.
I put the alcohol down, sort of, when
Yeah.
she was looking,
Yeah.
let's say. And then I just went ballistic with the food. And that's when it just started to pack on like nobody's business. And I was seeing a counselor at the time who told me, she said, you know, you have a lot of work to do on your childhood. There's a lot we need to uncover. But until you get your food under control, it's not going to happen. None of it's going to take. She said, and I hate saying that to you because I'm not trained in, you know, recovery from food addiction or eating disorders or anything. And she sent me off to recovery because I didn't have a lot of money either, you know, and she said, so go here because you put $1 in the basket when it comes around and that's it. And I did, and I knew as soon as I walked in that door, I was exactly where I needed to be. I, of course, didn't want any part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's where I met God again, you
Oh,
know?
cool,
And
cool.
yeah, because I had been sort of walking away, running away as fast as I could. And that's where God showed up for me. I mean, I think God was showing up all along, but I could see him coming through people.
So for people listening who have their version of our addictions, plural, like, whatever theirs is, and their nuances to it and all that stuff, to the people who have lost hope but haven't actually lost hope. You know what I mean by that? Like they're listening, their ears are perking up, they've shelved the part of their conversation in their own head where they want to deal with it.
Yes.
What's your best advice for, I'm gonna ask it for two types of people. One, the type of person who says, can't go to a public place, never gonna walk in the doors of like an AA, an MA, whatever A, Al-Anon, like any of those. That's for people not like me, or that is for people like me, but I don't want to be seen. I don't want to tell my family. I don't want to like leave the house at 6 and tell my husband. Those kind of people. Like, what's your advice for them? And then also for people who have gone to that and it didn't work, do you have any advice?
Well, for the people who see, there's technologies in making it so that there's really very few excuses anymore.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't think about
There
that.
are a lot of online meetings now since COVID. And so you can go on, and some of them don't even make you turn your screen on.
Wow. Okay. Dang.
So, I mean, there's no excuse to go
Yeah.
and sit in. I mean, now, of course, I would much prefer people go in person because I
Mhm.
think that has a power that you just don't get through the screen,
Yeah.
you know.
Totally.
And so I go as much as I can in person. That's
Mhm.
my preference. You know, like I said, I can't be so presumptuous to say what's going to happen when I die. I also don't know how someone else is going to recover. You know, I've met people who've recovered because they gave their life to Jesus
Mhm. Mhm.
or because they became a meditation guru or, you know, whatever. And so I can't say that that's wrong. You know, I guess what I would say is don't lose hope,
Cool.
you
I like that.
know,
Yeah.
just
Um,
don't just look elsewhere, see what else you can find.
and then I think I have two questions in my mind. I'll ask, I think I'll just keep asking you two at once and then I'll let you deal with it. You seem good at that approach, and that's kind of how things have happened to me. So the first question is it's from both ends. So I was a child who was getting obese, and my brother had already been obese, and my parents tried situation X with him, and then because that didn't work, they tried situation Y with me. Ironically, they should have done Y with him and X with me. Both, like, they did the opposite with each of us. So with him,
Yeah.
they incentivized him to ride a bike, and they would pay him to lose weight, and with me, they left me alone and just figured he'll figure it out. I secretly wanted help, and I'm a huge competitive junkie. Like, you put me in a competition, I'll do whatever it takes. So that would have like
Yeah.
totally worked. Now, I'm not mad at my parents and I'm not upset with them. What scares me as a parent is as my kids emerge into this world where it's extra body positive in a way where I'm putting air quotes around that because I don't think it's necessarily positive the way it's being introduced. And especially just with like they go to preschool and like they serve them the worst food I've ever seen. I mean, it's just horrendous. It's I mean, it's food that puts everyone on the path to weight gain. It's not just, someone with an addiction. So,
Yeah.
what are your recommendations to parents with children with emerging weight issues? Like, is there a universal advice? I'm sure you're going to say no to that, but is there like, what are some pitfalls that maybe to help them prevent that? And then I'm going to ask the second question later. That was a long one.
Okay. Well, first of all, what I will say for sure is that I was born this way. I absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, believe I was born with this addictive gene. And somewhere before I even had consciousness, I crossed the line with food.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when I say that, what I mean is I have three siblings who are not compulsive overeaters, right? So
Yeah.
it's not because my parents made me this way. For a very long time, I tried to blame them. And I do think that sometimes it does contribute to it, right?
Hmm.
Sugar is what most people believe is the addictive substance. So so what I would suggest is that you do as a parent. Now, I'm not a parent. I mean, I can tell you how to feed a cat. I can't tell you how to feed a kid. But I would say that do your best to keep sugar to a minimum because it is so addictive. And I'll just give you one quick example. I was 2 years clean in the program, and what one of the things that means for me is that there's no sugar or sugar-like things like honey or those anything with a toast at the end in the first five ingredients of my food.
Wow.
So I look
That's
at
cool.
boxes and I read the ingredients. I don't look at calories and fat grams anymore to just make sure sugar's not in the first five ingredients. You would be shocked at the amount of things that I cannot eat because one of those things is in the first ingredients. But anyway, so I was about 2 years clean from sugar, completely like that. And I ate a sweet pickle by mistake. I thought it was a dill, like it was a
Yeah.
buffet type thing. And I had never had a sweet pickle. Like in my whole life, I had
Yeah.
never had a sweet pickle. So I ate it, not even knowing that it was a sweet pickle, thinking, ew, these pickles taste disgusting. But I had already started eating the pickles. And so I was like, well, this is going to be my vegetables, so I might as well finish them, because I have certain foods at certain meals.
Totally.
Now, I hadn't had a craving. It had to be a good year since I had had any kind of craving. I was sitting, and this was a work thing. I was sitting in a meeting probably about an hour later, and all I could think about was cookies.
Wow.
I mean, that is how fast it happened. And it wasn't until, and I still didn't make the connection. It wasn't until later when I was telling one of my friends in the program what happened, and I couldn't understand why I had this craving. And she asked me, "What'd you eat?" And, I was telling her, and she goes, "Are you sure that wasn't a sweet pickle that you ate?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So and it's extremely addictive. So I would just drive that home to parents, do the best you can. The only sugar that's good is the kind that comes in a fruit and a vegetable, like that's the natural thing that God put on earth for us to have, and so that's the only thing that's good. Um, I forget what the other question was.
No,
There
I didn't
another?
ask it. I have it though. I'm ready.
Oh,
It's ready. It's loaded.
okay,
So my
okay.
other question, it's ancillary, it's tangential to it, which is as someone who lost weight, I have learned kind of the hard way, but mostly the easy way to just butt out and not talk to strangers and friends who are overweight. Even though I know I could help them, I just feel like it's awkward and it's rude and all that. With that said, though, I sometimes actually feel the opposite. I feel guilty, like I could be helping because my life was transformed by a close friend of mine actually taking the time to say, "Hey man, are you okay with like how you feel and look and everything?" And I opened up and we had like a 9 hour marathon conversation and then he helped me lose weight and he said I used to be heavy. I had to do the same thing. Here's like how I go through the rest of my life. And it was like so helpful. So I'm just kind of curious between those two, like, completely polarized approaches. What's in your wheelhouse? What do you recommend to people?
Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks.
Well, there's
Oh, and
the
real quick, sorry. Recommend to people who have lost weight and like or are recovering alcoholics, like either one. So
right, right. Well, in the programs that I attend still to this day, I mean, I still go because I'm
Mhm.
not ever going to not have this. One of the things is the anonymity of it, like we are anonymous groups, and I don't run around broadcasting it to people. However, I would not, if someone were to ask me questions like in the office or something, like, how come you never have pizza when we have pizza parties? Why do you always bring your lunch? Or, blah, blah, or whatever, people ask questions all the time. Why are you eating that? What
yeah,
is
yeah.
that? Or
Totally,
why can't
totally.
you have a brownie? Or whatever. I'll tell them. I'm right out front in telling people that I know this is what I do. And the idea being that I may be an attraction, and that's the best way,
Hmm.
I think, to get someone, to have them ask you questions. There are times when that is not ever going to happen.
Hmm.
And I would say that there's maybe been in my 25 years, there's maybe been like two times that I actually brought it up to someone.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that was even someone who already knew what I was doing.
yeah,
And so I think, and mainly because when I was in that place, I wasn't looking for help. I wanted you to go away from me.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and it wasn't until I was ready
Yeah.
that I was going to do anything anyway. Like I know there were several times when people came to me and said, I could help you, or, my mom was pushing me towards recovery, and I was just like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
You
That's kind of
know?
why I asked, because I think there's just a lot of people listening who either have someone in their life or are there. And I'm like you, I just have very simple rules for life that work splendidly. If I
Yep.
don't follow them and I try to institute other rules, nothing works. So that's stupid. I just, like you said, actually,
Right.
literally, God gave us fruit. That's enough. Like,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and that was
Yeah.
actually the inverse. My wife made me snickerdoodles. Yeah, snickerdoodles for my birthday, which was on Monday. And I had like I think 15 on Monday night, and then last night there was a bag with 9 left, and I ate 7, and I went upstairs and I was like, "Can you just eat the last 2, please?" So now I'm on
Yeah.
day one, no sugar again. I mean, it'll be fine. I've gone this tap dance enough times, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I can relate. I want to ask you some questions about your book and your writing career because I think that's an important part of your personality. I hope. I just really wanted to help our audience with like a lot of these questions, so I know you were comfortable answering them, but I didn't want to gloss over your life or anything like that. But
No, it's okay. That is my
uh
life.
yeah, so no, and I love the way you answer questions and you have such a great healthy attitude. And I feel sad for Americans, and I'm just talking about our local culture because like we just even the food supply is not great and like the ads and just everything. So I feel like people are already, even if they're not inclined to addictive behavior and even if they're not inclined to gain weight, it's like, I just watch these teenagers with their incredible metabolism thinking this won't happen to me, and I'm like, oh no, it will. And so with all that said, you've written a book. And your book is called High Powered: One Woman's Journey of Personal Eschatology. So let's talk about it. What made you write the book? What's the book about? You can talk about it. I'm sure you're used to it. So
Yeah, well, before I got into recovery, I had, and like I said, I was away from organized religion, just, and it was, you'll love this. It was the year after college, and I was still going back to my college to party,
yeah,
because
yeah.
what you do,
Why
right?
not?
Hey. Um, and I was standing outside a party by myself because it was freezing. It was January, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I had an encounter with Jesus. I
Wow.
mean, he literally was standing next to me, and I knew because I was yelling at God, basically. That's how it started. I was out there by myself yelling at God. That's
Yeah,
sane, right?
yeah,
And
totally.
blaming my life on God. And I knew that if I turned and looked up to my left, Jesus would be standing right there. Like I could turn and I could hug him, like human Jesus, not apparition. He
Cool.
was there. And I decided to turn right and go back into the party
Wow.
and drink myself into oblivion.
You cold, cold human. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. And the next, if that was the year, I think that was the year after college, either the year or 2 years after college. That was about 9 years before I got into recovery.
Okay.
Or no, 6 years, 6 years before I got into recovery. And those 6 years were hell on earth. I cannot even begin to describe to you the suicidal despair, the just absolute isolation, desperation, just horror that my life was. Um, and I don't need to go into the details. Anybody who's been there knows it's
Mhm.
awful, right? And so, but I forgot that, not forgot, I pushed that away. Like I didn't remember that that happened until I was sitting in that Intro to New Testament class, and we were talking about the book of Revelation. And we were also talking about metaphorical Jesus and how he talked, in metaphor. And I was like, well, if this is all metaphor, why couldn't his second coming be personal? Why couldn't it
Ooh.
be him
Wow.
coming back just for me or just for you? I looked at my life in recovery and I saw the absolute complete different me. I mean, that person prior to recovery, she's still in here. I mean, if I pick up the substances, she'll go, "Hey, here I am," you know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when I see people who knew me then, they have no idea. They have no idea who I am, or they see an inkling of me there, but they're just shocked. They can't, right? So I was completely transformed in my recovery. And that's also where I came back to wanting to be, to seeking God, to wanting to be in conversation about Jesus. I was, reading every book I could possibly read before I went to seminary, the whole thing. And so I was sitting there and I was having just this amazing moment. And then I remembered that he did come to me. And it
Wow.
was like, oh my God, it happened this way. Like, and this was my first year. This was only my second semester in seminary. So I'm still being sort of mousy. I'm not saying things out loud because I'm
Yeah.
stupid and they're all really smart and I don't say anything to make myself look dumb. So I kind of like, I remember walking over to the library that day, and it was May because it was the end of the semester, and the tulips were like, woo! They were just like singing. And I thought I took a picture of them and I put it on Facebook. I remember it,
That's cool.
and I was just like, the tulips are singing. I mean, I was just like, this is it. This is the answer. And all those fears and just everything about me burning and being a sinner and all that stuff, it was gone.
Wow.
It was gone because I realized, and this is what I wrote about, that he came to me and I ran away, and what he says is, those who turn from me, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Mm.
I already experienced that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was nothing to be afraid of anymore. I mean, I just was like, oh my gosh. Still kept it quiet though. I can't tell anybody this, because this is nobody. And but I started researching it. I started like, what is this? And I went to a thesis writing, like introductory to thesis writing, uh, second or third year, because I knew I would have to do that because I was getting my master's in theology. And when I started talking about the idea in this session that I had just told you,
Yeah.
and as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm trying to like pull it back, like, don't say it out loud, because for 3 years I've kept this.
Yeah.
And the professor there said, that sounds like eschatology,
Wow.
which of course I had no idea what that meant. And I just looked at him and I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? And he told me, and then he said, before you write that for a thesis, because that's a different idea than I've ever heard. He said you might want to do like a directed study on what eschatology is and
Mhm.
learn, get the foundation of it. And then I heard myself say this out loud and try to pull this back too. I was like, oh, could I do that with you?
Oh,
Because he
wow.
was just like the smartest guy I knew, right?
Yeah, totally.
And he was like, yeah, come to my office next week. We'll talk about it. And I left there thinking, what the heck did you just do? So that's where it started. And after I wrote my thesis, which was a couple years later than that, I knew that there was more.
Hmm.
I wrote the
Yeah.
thesis to fulfill all the requirements, to get the A,
Yeah. Yeah.
all those things. And then I graduated and I was like, there is so much more to say.
And that's it.
And I went and I tried to do it on the weekend because I had a full-time job
Mm.
and I couldn't. I just couldn't, there was just too much to do.
Yeah.
And so I went to my boss, like, these are crazy things. This might sound like a normal progression for someone, but for me to ask for what I need from these people, this is insane for me, like that
Mhm.
I'm asking for what I need. I went to my boss at the time and I said, I wonder if I could work my 40 hours in 4 days and take Fridays off to write.
Wow. That's
And
cool.
she was kind of like, uh, I don't know. And she said, let me talk to HR, but I don't see why not, because my job wasn't one where I had to be present for, like, I did research and
Hmm.
behind the scenes stuff for fundraising. So
Yeah.
I just prepped people to go out and do the conversations. And she came back to me and she said, yeah, they said you could do this as flex time. And so it took me about 2 years
Wow.
using Fridays.
Cool.
Uh, and I did it. And it took me another 2 years to find the publisher,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is, as you know, from
That's
hell. Talk about living hell. Try to find a publisher for your book. I mean, it's bleh.
when people say they want to be a writer, I'm like, do you want to be a looking for a publisher? Because that's what you should call yourself. Like, it's so
Exactly,
like
exactly.
to tell someone that you spend twice as long finding publishing than you do writing and editing the book. And then when you tell them how much editing is, anyway, yeah, it's just
It's insane.
my heart with you for sure. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
And I even like, I started doing things like that they tell you to do, like go on
Mhm.
Publishers Marketplace,
Yeah. Oh
all
my
those
God.
kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe I'll get an agent because then the agent will do everything for me. I had two agents say to me, until you have over 2,000 followers on social media, nobody's going to pick you up.
Yeah. It's
And I'm like, isn't that your job?
I know. It's like the whole industry. I actually like unabashedly have no respect anymore for how it works. It's not the people in it. I don't hate agents. I don't hate publishers. I hate no
Right.
individual people, but the collective legacy publishing industry is like so bloated and then with the way
And
social media,
and then
yeah.
they take everything.
Oh yeah, no,
I
it's insane.
mean, I'm working with an independent publisher now who I get 50% of
Yeah.
everything.
That's what I
And I
did.
get to
Yeah.
keep the rights to my book.
Yep. I did the same thing and I'm so much happier now and I will never go back and I will never
Yeah,
also waste that much time. And if you want to read my book and you know me, you'll find me, you'll get it. Like marketing is just
exactly.
such a like hard. I mean, this counts as marketing technically, but I mean like the real pay someone in advance all the money and then some that you would ever make off royalties and then
Yeah,
well
yeah.
gosh, Jessica, this has been an incredible interview. You're an incredible person and your story is incredible. I definitely will leave a note for a link to buy your book and everything. Once again, it's called One Women's Journey of Personal Eschatology. The actual title is Higher Powered by Jessica Morris. Before I let you go though, we always let our guests have the floor for one last thing to tell our audience. So what would you like to tell our audience? Anything you want.
Um, this is going to sound so trite, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's nothing you can't do. Don't tell yourself ever again, I can't do that because no, 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 no. It's a lie. That's the lie that the world wants to tell you. It's not the truth of because for me, I had to get to the place where I would trust that, like, I mean, whatever your higher power is, if you don't have one, then you're just cocky. There's got to be something that's greater than you, something that created you, right? I mean, you didn't create you, and so just trust that, it will happen if you keep doing the footwork. But you've got to do that part. You've got to have the courage to just go for it and do it. You know, when the time is right, it'll take off if that's what's supposed to happen.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much. That was excellent advice. I just turned 44. You just turned 55. And I can tell you that, oh man, that like really hits the spot where I'm at in life. And I do believe it now. And I wish I could go back and spend 20 years understanding how true that is, because there's so many times in our lives where we say no to ourselves and no one actually said no to us. We just presume
Exactly.
that's going to be, yeah. So thank you. Great advice. Great interview. Great to meet you finally. Everyone, please check out Jessica Morris and please check out her book. Once again, you've been listening or watching Coffin Talk. My name is Mike Oppenheim, and we will see you soon.